4, verses 1 and 2. Proverbs chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. I preached from this passage some 4 years ago. I believe I tags How to Gain Success. Y'all were so kind. Y'all said amen and y'all clapped, even though I had no idea what I was talking about. But I got a few miles on me now. By the grace of God, I was taken aback by Proverbs chapter 4. When I initially preached it, it was directed toward children. It was directed toward children. But after taking another look at it, not only is Solomon speaking to children, but he has a word in there for parents as well. It's not all about children, it's about parents as well. I love to jump in the book of Proverbs during this time of graduation. Kids are getting ready to move to a higher grade, and those are getting ready to graduate high school. As children get older, they become more independent. They start detaching themselves from mama and daddy and aunt and uncle. All of a sudden, the person who knew everything, all of a sudden doesn't know anything. The child starts leading and depending on their own understanding. But Solomon says, children, be very careful. Because you can try to figure out life with your own mind, and you'll find out that you go down real fast. But then, on the other hand, Solomon says, parents, you be careful too. Because if you want your children to depend on you for information, you have to have information to give them.
All right.
You can't expect your children to look to you when they're having a problem and you ain't got nothing to offer them to help them with the problem that you're having. And even more serious than that, how can your children come to you when your life doesn't reflect what they need?
All right.
They're looking at you. They're seeing how your lifestyle is. They're seeing your ups and your downs, and they have questions, but your picture frame that they see doesn't give them the confidence that you are able to help them, probably because you're struggling to help yourself. God help us. 4 years ago when I preached this passage, I was talking to children. But I got a few miles on me now. And I see that Solomon is not only talking to children, but he's also giving a word to parents who are expected to raise their children and lead them in the pathways of righteousness.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come on.
And all this kind of stuff. But how can you lead somebody down a road that you ain't never been down?
Yeah. Come on now.
2 verses, and I'm trying not to hold you very long, but I'm happy already. Proverbs chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. Very simple passage. In fact, the older preacher would say, the message is so simple that I'm almost embarrassed to preach it. Solomon just says, hear, O sons, the instruction of a father. I won't get to this in the sermon, so let me just tell you. He uses this generalized language. He uses the word sons. It refers to male children. But then he says, hear the instruction of a father. You know, in the English language, there's what you would call a definite article and an indefinite article. A definite article would be the boy. That boy right there. It's a specific boy. An indefinite article would be a boy. Could refer to any boy. Here, Solomon uses an indefinite article. Hear, O sons, the instructions of a father. The idea is that good information doesn't only come from one person. Good information can come from an uncle. Good information can come from an aunt. Good information can come from a grandfather. Good information can come from a grandmother. Good information can come from anybody. Hear the instructions of a father. Which means if you ain't got nobody in your household with some sense, then you can still find somebody that you can listen to with some sense. Hear, O sons, the instruction of a father. Give attention that you may gain understanding. That's very important. Understanding doesn't come from your own thoughts. Understanding comes from listening to somebody else. Your mind will tell you whatever your mind wants to tell you. Your mind will tell you you can fly sometimes. You listen to too much R. Kelly and you'll be jumping off mountains. Those who listen to R. Kelly know what I'm talking about. He believed he could fly. And that's all fine and good, but the reality of that is you ain't got no wings, boy. So you need somebody to tell you you can't fly. You can't do that. Bible said there's a way that seems right to a man.
Yes, sir.
But in the end thereof is the way of death. You keep following your GPS.
Come on now.
And you'll never get where you're going.
Never get where you're going.
I'll help you this one.
All right.
Well, why should you listen to people with some sense? Verse 2 says, "For I give you sound teaching. Do not abandon my instruction." A life that reflects the righteousness of God. You may have to see some verses. A life that reflects the righteousness of God. Hear, O sons, the instruction of a father, and give attention that you may gain understanding. Why, Daddy? For I give you sound teaching. Do not abandon my instruction. It's a life that reflects the righteousness of God. Allow me to preface this sermonic presentation by guaranteeing you that following the right directions will always get you to your desired destination. I'll tell you one more time. Following the right directions will always get you to your desired destination. I'll tell you one more time, because I can guarantee this. Following the right directions will always get you to your desired destination. There are two key words in that sentence. Right, following the right directions, and always. Right will always get you to where you're trying to go.
Amen.
Nobody told me this, but I learned this life lesson as a boy growing up while playing the game Simon Says. For those of you who have never heard of the game Simon Says, or for those of you who have no idea what Simon Says is, the concept of the game is quite simple. In order to be successful at the game, all you have to do is do whatever Simon says to do.
That's it.
If you do what Simon says do, it is guaranteed that you will be successful at the game, Simon says. Since I grew up in a household that was financially challenged or poor, I know the word is poor. But you see, we were so poor that we could not afford the other O or the R. So we were just poor.
Yes.
I grew up in a household that was financially challenged. So for entertainment, my siblings and I had to make up games or play free games. There was no such thing as an iPad.
All right.
Or an iPod. There was no such thing as an iPhone. It was years before we knew what a Nintendo or a PlayStation was.
Come on.
We were poor. We grew up in a household that was financially challenged, so we had to make up games, or we had to play free games like table football, where you fold up a piece of paper into this triangular shape and flick it down the table. It was a made-up game. Or we had to play free games. When we got to go outside, because we did not have a basketball going outside, we invented a game called curve ball. Where you shoot the ball, and if it hit the curve, that was 2 points. But we just grew up in a household that was financially challenged, where we did not have the finances to purchase these expensive handheld games, or these board games that families play today. We grew up in a household that was financially challenged, so we made up our games, or we played free games. My favorite was Simon Says. My favorite game was Simon Says, you see, because I am the youngest of 5 children. As the youngest of 5 children, I was naturally weaker than my siblings. As the youngest of 5 children, I was naturally slower than my siblings. As the youngest of 5 children, I was naturally shorter than my siblings. So when we would play our free games, or when we would play our made-up games, they would always beat me because they could reach what I couldn't reach. They would always beat me because they were faster than I was. They would always beat me because they were stronger than I was. But when it came to Simon Says, little brother would win every time.
All right.
The little brother would win every time, because Simon Says is not a game that tests your physical strength. Simon Says is not a game that tests how tall you are. Simon Says is not a game that tests how fast you are. For all you need to be successful in Simon Says is to have the ability to follow instructions. If you can follow instructions, you will win Simon Says every time. But because my siblings were caught up in their height, because my siblings were caught up in their physical strength, because my siblings were caught up in how fast they could run, when it came to Simon Says, I would win every time. Because I had the ability to follow instructions. I ain't never been tall, ain't never been too strong, ain't never been too fast, but I know how to follow directions. So when it came to Simon Says, I would beat them every time. Just as I would win in Simon Says, because I had the ability to follow instructions, so will every child who reflects a life, who lives a life that reflects the righteousness of God by obeying their parents. You can win as I won, as Simon Says, by living a life that reflects the righteousness of God, simply by obeying the instructions that mama and daddy and them gives to you. Question of the text becomes, how do you live a life that reflects the righteousness of God? Living a life that reflects the righteousness of God doesn't require any physical strength. Living a life that reflects the righteousness of God doesn't require you to be tall or short. Living a life that reflects the righteousness of God doesn't require you to be fast or slow. Living a life that reflects the righteousness of God doesn't require any physical ability. Thought I'd have a witness there. Glad I brought my own just in case. Bible says the race is not given to the swift, neither is it given to the strong, but it's given to the one who can endure it to the end. Translation, if you are going to live a life that is pleasing in the eyesight of God, you don't need to be strong, tall, or any of that. All you need is to have the ability to follow the instructions that God provides in his holy and righteous word.
All right, all right. Thank you.
If you are a child who's too young to read, God's word should be communicated through your parents. How do you live a life that reflects the righteousness of God? Here in Proverbs chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. The wise sayings of Solomon, given to him by God, teach us how we can live a life that reflects the righteousness of God. It teaches us, not just children, but parents as well, how it is that we can live lives that reflect the righteousness of God. If you are going to live a life that reflects the righteousness of God, the text teaches us first that you must receive the guidance your parents provide. If you are going to live a life that reflects the righteousness of God, you must receive the guidance that your parents provide. For young people who still are fortunate to have their parents, you can listen to the guidance that your parents provide right now. But for those seasoned saints in the room, they can help me testify that my mother taught me some lessons 20, 30, 40 years ago that I'm still living by right now. I'm doing as good as I'm doing because I'm living my life according to what my parents taught me yesterday. You must receive the guidance that your parents provide. In verse number 1, Solomon claims that righteous living is the result of receiving reflective recommendations from trustworthy parents. Solomon claims that righteous living is the result of receiving reflective recommendations from trustworthy parents. In other words, if you are going to live a life that reflects the righteousness of God, it requires that you listen to parents who know what the righteousness of God is. Right. On the other hand, if you are going to live a life that reflects the righteousness of God, not only must you listen to a parent who knows what the righteousness of God is, but the parent must have the ability to know what the righteousness of God is. It doesn't do you any good to ask mama or to ask daddy what the righteousness of God is if mama or daddy doesn't know what the righteousness of God is. All right, all right. In order to live a life that reflects the righteousness of God, you must be connected to somebody who knows what the righteousness of God is. You can look at this in your current household, or you can look at this with your church. You've been going to that church for years, and you ain't no better than when you first started going there. It's because you probably have a bad connection with somebody who don't know what they're talking about. Come on now. Speak. He claims in verse number 1 that righteous living is the result of receiving reflective recommendations from trustworthy parents. All right. Come on now. But if you're going to receive good information, you need to be connected to somebody who has good information. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is what leads Solomon to say in the opening word of verse number 1, hear. The word hear simply means to listen with the intention of responding to what you heard. To hear moves beyond words tickling your eardrum. It moves to those words illuminating your heart. When you hear something, you intend to do what you heard. In 1998, I was rushed to the hospital because I did not hear what my mother said. Oh, don't misunderstand me. I heard her, but I didn't listen to her. To hear means to listen with the intent of responding to what you heard, but because I heard her but did not listen to her, I ended up being rushed to the hospital. Summer of 1998, me and my brothers begged my mother to go outside. All day long she said no, but she finally agreed to let us go outside. But just before we went outside, she gave her normal instructions. Chris, keep your eyes on your brothers. Climon, stay in the yard. Sean, stay out of trouble. Those were her instructions that she gave, and with readiness, we said, all right, Mama, and took out the front door to go outside. And as soon as we got outside, I jumped on my bike, and although I was supposed to stay in the yard, I decided that I was going to follow my oldest brother Chris down the street and around the corner. And before we could get to where we were going, this green van ran the stop sign and hit little old me off of my bike. I was rushed to the hospital, not because I didn't hear what Mama said. I was rushed to the hospital because I did not listen to what Mama said. This is why Solomon wants you to know that it is very important, children, that you hear, that you listen to what your parents have to say. Because when you ignore what Mama and Daddy are trying to teach you, you find yourself in situations that you did not have to get yourself into. I was fortunate. My disobedience got me a trip to the hospital. But your disobedience could get you a trip to the graveyard. My disobedience got me a trip to the hospital for 3 or 4 days, but your disobedience can get you a trip to prison.
Yes, sir.
Solomon says, whatever you do, hear what they say.
Yeah.
Listen to what they say.
Yes, sir.
Hear them with the intention of doing what they tell you to do. But what Solomon commands is equally important to who he commands it to. You see it, don't you? Hear, O sons. The Hebrew word for sons refers to male children. It literally means builders of the future. Sons were those who would carry on the family's name. Sons were those who would raise families, and they would then be entrusted to keeping up the finances and to maintaining the family's name. He gives these commandments to children who will inherit his estate.
Yes, sir.
Do you know why, parents, you should instill good values in your children? It's because everything you work hard to get will be given to them.
Yeah.
And what a shame it will be that after you have worked all your life working for everything that you have, you give it to this ignorant child of yours because you ain't taught them nothing.
That's it. That's it.
You worked all your life to pay that house off, and as soon as they got it, it went to nothing. You worked all your doesn't know any better.
That's it, mama.
Hear, O sons, what he commands here is equally important as who he commands it to. The culture of the text is geared toward male children. But our culture is not that way.
All right.
Because not only do we leave inheritances to male children, but we also leave an inheritance to female children.
Yes.
So you shouldn't spend all your time doting on that boy and spend no time investing in the daughter.
That's right.
You shouldn't spend all your time pampering the child who you think has the most potential and ignoring the child who you think has the least potential.
Come on now.
Solomon says, "Hear, O sons," is the picture of a grandfather sitting in his rocking chair, calling his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren. He's calling everybody. Y'all come and y'all sit around me. I want to tell all of y'all the same thing. I want to tell y'all what life has taught me.
Yes, yes.
Life has taught me that if you're fair with people, people will be fair with you.
Say that, sir.
Life has taught me when you cheat people, you won't be able to sleep at night. Life has taught me when you go to work, you will have food on your table. Life has taught me that a man that doesn't work is a man that should not eat. So wake up and get a job. How you gonna tell a child to get a job when you ain't got one yourself?
Come on now. Preach, man.
How you gonna tell your son how to keep his wife if you working on your third one? How are you gonna tell that daughter how to keep her man and you lose every one you get? Hear, O sons,
Yes, Lord.
the instruction of a father. I told you at the beginning of the sermon, it's an indefinite article. It can refer to anybody.
Yes.
If mama can't teach you nothing, there's somebody out there who can.
That's right.
And link up with them
Yeah.
and get some sense from them. You don't have to physically have children, watch me now,
Come on.
to have children.
Come on, right?
You don't have to physically be able to produce a child to say, that's my boy right there.
All right. All right.
All it takes is a person who cares about your future.
That's right. That's it. Right.
And you know who that person has just become? That person has just become your mother.
All right.
That person has just become your father. No, they may not be your biological mother. They may not be your biological father. But if they are showing concern for you by trying to lead you down the right road to live a successful life, that person is your father. And Solomon says you ought to hear the instruction of a father. Instead of walking around with the idea you ain't my mama. That man trying to raise you because you're no good daddy somewhere that you don't know, and all you got to say is you ain't my daddy. Press on with your sermon, brother. You about to say something you should
Come on,
say.
come on. They need to hear it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Read it. That's good.
You ought to hear the instructions of a father. I know you ain't my child biologically, but God dog it, I care about you, and I'm trying to lead you down the right road, and you gonna treat me like that?
Come on now.
I don't know what my mother's generation went, but she would have told you, well, you know what you can do? instruction
Yes, sir.
of a father. Solomon moves on to the B portion, or to the A portion of verse number 1. And by using the phrase of father, he lets us know that everybody is not qualified to give godly advice.
That's it.
Everyone is not qualified to give trustworthy information. And you know what? Your children know if you are qualified to give trustworthy information.
Amen.
They can look at you and determine whether or not mama is the right person to ask. They can look at you and determine whether or not daddy is the right person to ask. They are in a relationship and they're trying to figure out how this thing work out, and they can look at your relationship status and say mama ain't the right one to ask about this one. They can look at what you got going on and they can want to know information on how do I save money, and they look and say mama always broke. She ain't the one to go and ask no information about how to save money. She ain't even got no savings account. Forget having money in it. They can look at you and determine whether or not you are the right person to ask information. But Solomon wants us to know that everybody is not qualified to provide trustworthy information. When I grew up, another made, I learned it later when I was grown, $19,000 a year. And with $19,000 a year, she purchased her a car, 2 cars. She purchased her a house. She kept food on the table. We always had clothes to wear. Our hair stayed cut. She made sure that we had what we needed off of $19,000 a year. And here we are. $30,000 a year. $40,000 a year. $50,000, $60,000 a year. And we got to make a decision whether we go pay the car note or buy groceries. Mama was the person you can go to to say, mama, how I do this? Tell me how you did it. I see that you did it. How I do it. But you want your children to go out and ask you something that you don't have.